Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis, and I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation. I'm joined this morning by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Tommy. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, doing well. It's another beautiful, chilly, snowy Saturday morning. Last evening, a cold front came in. But although the cold front has come in, Eric, I'm warm in my spirit. I'm glad to be with you this morning, and I'm glad that our community is with us this morning as well.
We're absolutely glad our community is with us. We've got some hot items to talk about today. This was a week for the ages. And Tommy and I have just been having a ball here, getting caught up. I'm going to let Tommy talk about his week. I'm going to run grab some papers. I'll be right back.
So my week was good. There's a number of things going on administratively, really just putting some bows around a number of projects, submitting proposals and things like that. And then in the efforts of submitting proposals, we submit proposals by way of request for proposals, RFPs. And, RFPs can be very convoluted. They can be highly competitive, meaning sometimes hundreds, if not thousands of vendors are bidding for the same opportunity. And over the last several weeks and last week, we were able to secure a few of these opportunities, and then we didn't win or we lost opportunities. So a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, I did post on Facebook that we had endured a couple of losses. In reality, we were trying to get new business,
right?
And we were competing, and we lost in that competition,
right?
So it wasn't that companies went away or things like that. That didn't happen at all.
Right.
So I want to clear it up now because I got some calls saying, are you okay? No, we're competing. And the only thing I was doing as I just wrap up my week was, as an athlete, Eric, after every win and particularly after every loss, we go back to the tape.
That's right.
Right. We have to go back to the film, understand how we can improve what we may have done wrong, and connect our mental thoughts with our physical performance.
Right.
And so in this work, what we did is just basically, our mindset was in the right direction. But then when we look at our proposal, it could have been a little more colorful with images. It could have been something. And so it's all in a vein of continuous improvement. And I am certain, because being faithful, being consistent in the business, I'm certain that other opportunities will come. I have no worries at all.
No doubt about it. Tommy, I'm glad that you had a chance to clear that up for our community. These are difficult times that we live in. Make no mistake. There are people that we've worked with that are beginning to sort of put some pauses, and there are other people that are doubling, tripling down, and they're pressing the accelerator. And so we're grateful for that. Because there is so much craziness going on in the world, Tommy and I don't have a choice about what we're going to do each day. We've got to get up fully committed to try to help companies, schools, governments to really embrace this notion of a world, a society that is diverse and recognizes the value of that. In many respects, Tommy, we've almost lost track of the value of diversity. And we may have said it last week, but not. If you just look at the impact of Taylor Swift on the NFL, the Swifties. They've come in because of Taylor Swift. We have a 52% increase in teenage girls that are watching the NFL. We have an increase of 9% in women overall that are watching the NFL, buying tickets, purchasing gear. We have women that are initiating companies for attire and equipment and garments and things for women. I saw some of them, Tommy, maxi coats, 49ers, the Chiefs, and I could see how powerful that is. And so whenever you have diversity and anybody of interest to other communities come in, it raises the money. It raises the GNP for the entire country.
Yes.
Because more women and girls are coming to football. I listened to a father talk about for the first time that his daughter is sitting down with him watching football, enjoying, knowing every team in the NFL, enjoying it, and he's listening to a lot more Taylor Swift music. And I just think that is so powerful, Tommy. And it really reinforces our conviction that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are the right ways to go. And so I also enjoyed this week, Tommy, working with a couple of my companies on, we've got this tool called sort of the CARS DEIB plan. And that stands for commitments, actions, results, and stories. And so we have all the leaders in the organization put together an individual DEIB leadership plan. And the CEOs holding them accountable around that. Now we actually have them departmentally putting together these plans collaboratively with 7 people. We call them DEIB action teams. So those 7 people are working on those teams, all management up to the CEO, and then 2 employees on each team. And so those teams within the departments, they're working on these strategies, either around the competencies that we taught them or around some other objectives that they need to achieve within their department. Then they come together for what we call a CARS in Motion, sort of collaborative company-wide meetings 3 times, where a representative from each of those teams will come meet with us. Then in small groups, they'll take their best practices and feed them up. So Tommy, it's like in so many organizations, you may have a couple of teams that are getting this right. And the rest that are sloughing off, not prioritizing this, never having the time, not getting around to it. Now it's like, well, if you don't do anything, don't worry. We got you covered. With all these other people, the 2 things that they did, we're now going to map these all into an entire organizational roadmap for best practices.
Wow.
So you now can't just be empty in your own head. And we're having them track commitments around the competency. Here's my commitment statement that I will focus on equity. I will focus on empathic listening. I will focus on psychological safety to ensure that every employee, and here are the actions that I'm going to take to make sure that happens. Then as a result of that, here's some results that we got as a result of doing that, listening to people, getting perspectives from people. Here's some of the business results that we got from that. And then here's some stories that we can now share with you. So everybody that's looking for the business case, I'm going to tell you this. Companies don't really value the generic business case that you can find on the internet. They actually oftentimes need their own stories. And so we're capturing those, man. We're making them capture those. And I'm really excited about that.
Eric, that's excellent to hear. I was listening to a lot of best practices, things that work. Even in our work with our clients, we've hit some roadblocks along the way where, again, the analogy of the car and folks are on that roadway moving forward.
That's right.
In some instances, we have folks who are behind the steering wheel, and then sometimes fall asleep at the wheel, and start to it kind of goes off the road. And then at other times, we have backseat drivers, who are saying we should do this, we should do this, we should do this, and it's so much information going to the driver that they get distracted on the path that they're heading toward. So customizing the business case is to gather on the front end a lot of that input, right? Then we have to identify who is driving what car and who is in the car.
That's right.
To ride along. And at any time, we can pull over and let you out. No shame, blame, or victimizing. That's a great model I'm listening to.
Thank you.
And using the analogy as well, because the attack against DEI is really for the lack of a better term, it's a proverbial wall, right? Or a chasm that's been put in the roadway.
That's right.
Right. The road continues.
That's right.
Into the horizon.
Right.
But
and obstacles and barriers and attacks that are happening, are still there.
Are still there. Yeah.
And if you don't have some other strategies to say, okay, how do we get there from here with them throwing all those branches and trees in the road?
Yeah.
And so we are delighted to be working with some partners that are seeing the evidence of the work that we're doing, and grateful for that in a major way. But I can tell you that the workplace and the world is reverberating with backlash. I can tell you right now that between all of the takebacks that have happened, affirmative action, Roe v. Wade, the people are now beginning to get agitated. And with the political environment that we're in, I'm telling my clients that the conflicts that you're seeing right now, Tommy, we're at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's only going to get worse as we continue to go through this week. Tommy, I know that we have a couple of items that we want to talk about. Let me hit one, because we're going to come down to looking at Trump and his score for this week, because there's a lot of things for us to take a look at in terms of how he's been held accountable this week. But I'd like to start by just asking you a couple of things, Tommy. We're hearing now out of Florida that many of the students are going, in order to listen to somebody read a passage from a book authored by a Black person, are going to have to get a permission slip from their parents to listen to somebody read. I mean, where are we, Tommy?
So we are basically,
where are we?
Eric, unfortunately, this playbook has been run before.
Mm-hmm.
And those who are vehemently against anything other than dominant race, dominant culture in America, right? Dominant perspective, meaning dominant, meaning the majority, right? Not superior, right?
Right.
That's right. Okay. So we've been down this road before, where not only in the United States, but in other parts of this world, in world history, where if we can recall going back in this country to the days of enslavement, one of the practices was to prohibit those who were enslaved to have access to information and knowledge.
Right.
That's through books and learning, because that's how, for the most part, information was shared. Outside of the Bible, which was an indoctrination of a faith against those who were enslaved that were coming from Africa and other parts. So where are we today? We're in a space where a very small minority of people are able to campaign against school districts, against legislation, to prohibit, folks for having access.
Right.
And the travesty of it all is that even if there are, say, the small minority, maybe 10% to say, down with folks trying to learn about African-American history or whatever.
Right.
If there's 90% of people saying or thinking, this is fine. I mean, not this is fine, but this is wrong. They're not vocal enough.
Right.
They're not vocal.
They're chilling.
So here's why I know that was a long answer, because this is a great concern for me, because not only in Florida, but listen, you said parents have to sign a permission slip for the teacher to read a sentence, a paragraph, a context. So the parents are really running the education, but it's only education based on identity. So it's not science. It's not math. Right? And it's not even
scholarly value.
Indeed. That's it. I would go as far as, if we were to look at history in a history class, and we begin with the founding fathers and hear of their testimonies, etc., Eric, because they are white men, then we okay it. We don't have to have a permission.
Right.
But if we move some 200, 300 years later into the 60s,
Right.
and we mention Dr. King, right, who's up on the wall in the school,
Right.
we have to have a permission slip
To read anything he wrote.
Yes. So I have a dream is now the Malcolm X's nightmare.
Right. Right. And so let me ask you this. I just want to give you some food for thought. Why is it that we don't have to sign a permission slip for them to put people that look like us on TV every night robbing banks and stealing? Why can't we have a permission slip for that? So there's no permission slip for that. And yet, you wonder why people don't know anything else about me and Tommy, except when they see us in the dark, then we might hit them in the head. Because anytime somebody tries to read a little something about what we contributed, that's not in the book. Not in the regular book. Didn't make the regular book.
Yeah.
So now we made a little book over here with just a few little passages. And they said, no. Got to get permission slip for that. All right, come on, you all. Where are we headed with this? And then we act as though we don't have the power of bias and that it has the ability to negatively impact how we imagine people. And I'm not in any way negative. We just have to look at the things that are happening around us that make no sense, but they're taking hold like wildfire, literally like a California wildfire, and they're burned out across the country. One of the things I'll ask you one last thing, Tommy, and then we'll get to some of the political things that have happened this week. And Black women are making an amazing difference. We're seeing that there's a young group of tech people that are working with social justice advocates, and they put together this sort of Black Wall Street kind of thing where they are putting together an app that's going to enable them to track the spending and the investments that are being made by corporations all around the country. And what they basically want to do is track how much companies are reinvesting in their diverse, customers, suppliers, and they're going to just let us know that. When I saw that, Tommy, I just raised up with a standing ovation because I believe, forget all the legislation. At the end of the day, it's about business.
Yeah.
And what they're saying is that, okay, you don't have to do this. We're just going to let people know how much they're spending with you and then how much you're investing in them. And then they'll be able to make the choice. Mm-hmm. So, hey, do you think? And I think that as we begin to see through technology that we're connecting people with their dollars and what they're getting back in return for those dollars, I do believe, Tommy, that that's going to make a major impact. And there will be a lot of efforts ultimately when this takes hold. There'll be a lot of efforts to try to dismantle this. Yeah. But it's a private thing that started. It's not a government thing that need government funding. And I think that is going to be the wave of the future for a minute, that people will invest in those that invest in them.
Yeah, Eric, and I'm thinking that, as Roger mentioned, sometimes you have to look further than the tip of your nose to know, right? And so I can see where in this country, the things that happen socially, politically, even religiously, et cetera, sometimes we are only looking as far as we can see or as far as we would like to receive information, meaning if we're only receiving information that is domestic or it's regional or it's local, that is our sphere of influence. When we think of companies, particularly large brands, most of them are national, if not global, right? So we're talking about, wireless vendors. We're talking about consumer goods packaging. Those companies are actually engaging with customers that are very different. So it's not just that 10,000 customers in that small town in that rural area, but it is a customer that has no idea of what we are going through here,
Right.
but they want that box of Tide. They want that cellular device. So we have to look broader, even with the instance of, Florida and permission slips to read statements and stories. We have to look broader as well to say, how might this impact an entire next generation?
Yeah.
Not just African Americans or Hispanics or whatever the case may be, but the entire generation of folks that don't know, and ignorance is bliss.
Right. So the topic that we want to talk about today that we're going to lean into is Black women in leadership, and specifically a couple of Black women that have been highly visible because of where they are with former President Donald Trump. We know that there's the DA in Fulton County who is working on the sort of the Georgia subversion, election interference, obstruction to the fair and free and fair elections, is Fani Willis. She's the DA there. She's got the prosecuting team there. They've been notching up a lot of wins. And then we have Letitia James, who is the Attorney General in New York, who has brought that civil fraud trial against Donald Trump. And so let's look at how the former president has operated throughout this process with these 91 indictments that he's facing. He was sort of flailing around, calling them all kind of names. And then finally he came up with election interference. And then he was able to throw everything under one simple bucket so that his supporters don't have to think.
Right.
I can't have you thinking.
Right.
So let's just throw it all under the bucket of election interference, anything they charge me with. Yeah. So I like that strategy, Trump. I really like that from a tribal standpoint. You simplify the message and you say it over and over and over again before people are saying it. After long, they're saying it themselves. And so many of former President Donald Trump's supporters are like this. You know how you see on TV when the mummies come like this and they got those stars in their eyes and they no longer have their own brain? And so he's done that so magically. I wish I had that power.
I do too.
That we can just go get clients like that. I love DEI. Yes, you do. You love it. I want that power. I want that power, Donald Trump. I'm gonna tell you, I want it. Yes, Eric, whatever. Leave him alone. He hasn't done anything wrong. I like it.
Here's the full bag of cash and access to all of our people.
He literally can say one story in the morning to his crowd, another story in the afternoon, and another story, and they stay with me.
Yep.
They stay up to speed on his arguments. And so he's been saying all of these things, and his crowd has been getting angrier, and he's got more money and more support. The only problem, former President Trump, is that you actually happen to be in the United States of America. And we actually do have a justice system that, because of a lot of fights, a lot of progress, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, people died.
Yes, sir.
We've got now Black women who are arguably the most discriminated against in our country, who some of them have gone on to college, they've gotten degrees, they have leadership roles, even though people are saying that they're incompetent, Tommy.
Yeah.
I mean, Letitia James, come on now. She didn't deserve that job. But a Black woman that didn't deserve the job has now become Attorney General in New York, and she's brought Donald Trump to justice. And he now has lost, been charged $355 million for civil fraud, for defrauding banks, institutions. These are all laws and things like that. You got to play fair. And he basically has felt so entitled his entire life. And he told us, I'll never forget this. He told us that was smart. He's a smart businessman.
Yep.
That if he can cheat everybody and get away with it, that's smart businessman. And now it's 355 right now. Both his sons, $4 million apiece. It's with interest, it's going to be $455 million. That's another $100 million. And I'll tell you, the judge described him as pathological. Now, he was cussing out the judge, white judge, cussing him out, talking about his assistant, doing all those rogue things. I mean, he just actually has no decorum, no respect, none of that. And yet we somehow are expecting people on the other side to be completely above reproach of any kind, which Letitia James was. But we're going to spend a little more time talking about Fannie Willis and what has happened in Fulton County.
Well, so let's stay in New York just for a moment, Eric, and explain to me a little bit, because I'm a little less familiar with the next steps.
Right.
So 355 million.
Right.
Tack on another 100 million.
Right.
Right. Two questions. Will that money ever be paid out?
That's a good question.
And the second is for Donald Trump and his business affairs, his enterprise, his empire in the state of New York, is that that Roman Empire, has that fallen?
Yeah, I'd say it has fallen. There's no doubt about it. And so let's look at, here's the thing. Any of us that know Trump, have followed him, God bless him, have followed him closely, know that he's the master of delay and appeals and never being held accountable for whatever he does. And we looked at that and think about all the people that he's harassed, molested or whatever, that he's taken into court and tied them up till they ran out of money. And so now he's here in New York. He lost $355 million because of fraud, that he was defrauding banks and saying that his properties were worth more when he was trying to get a loan, less when he's trying to pay his taxes. And so now he's lost $355 million. Now we know, those of us that watch Trump know that he's absolutely going to appeal this, right? But here's the problem. To appeal it, you got to put up a bond of the money. So you got to put it all up. Now, when you put it all up, Tommy, when you put it all up and you go for the appeal that doesn't have hardly a chance in hell, like IQ in hell of reversing this. This is all paper and numbers, got nothing to do with feelings, emotions, none of that. Papers and numbers. You got to put up the whole thing. Now, okay, big guy, go run with dope. But you got to put it all up. Then when you lose, then we got it. We just have it now. Now we got the money. So to do an appeal, you got to put up the money. That's what he's got to do with the woman that he talked about. 83 million?
Yeah.
He's got to put it up to appeal it. And then when you lose your appeal, then she gets it.
Yeah.
So you really put yourself, or you have to put up buildings, collateral up to that amount of money.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the problem for him is that his properties are, I told his sister, I said this on the show once before, that I saw an older sister in Savannah. And she says to me, she says, Eric, is anybody going to ever hold him accountable? I said, yeah. I said, he's going to be held accountable. I said, and what you're going to see is an old term called a rummage sale. You're going to see a rummage sale on his buildings. That's what Trump is about to run into, having to do a rummage sale. And here's the thing. I love what the judge said. Now, he dogged the judge. He talked about him. I'm going to say everything, but he's sleeping with his assistant who's up there. Called her name out so that people could put threats on her and everything. So Trump used all the magic tricks that he can to put pressure on them, but he's squirming. He's like a fish on his shore, not in the water any longer. He's just flopping. And so he was grasping for straws. And the judge called him borderline pathological. He said he's such an automatic liar, and he doesn't even admit or own the truth at all, has no remorse at all. He said that's why the only thing he will understand is the pain of judgment. That's why I went right with what the Attorney General and the prosecutor had recommended. He went right under that just a little bit. He also didn't do the nuclear thing to Trump where Trump can no longer do business in New York.
Okay.
But they're holding him out. He can't do business for 3 years. He can't serve on any boards for 3 years in New York, and he can't get any loans, any bank loans for 3 years.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much a death sentence right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So he can't get any money from anybody. They're going to get this for him to try to do an appeal. He is now, welcome to America, going to have to do he's going to have to live by the laws of the land. And I'll tell you this. I think this is the last thing I'm going to say, Tommy. The thing that's hurting the worst is I don't think that the courts would have charged him that high an amount, Tommy, if he wasn't defiant and completely resistant of the court's ability to hold him accountable according to the law. If he wasn't so disrespectful and sort of dismissive, he would have never gotten this high of a judgment. He got it, and the judge called him pathological. He says, I have so little. He says, I have no confidence. Here's what the judge says. I have no confidence whatsoever that he will change his behavior. He said, so as a result of that, I'm going to put a monitor in his business. When the monitor, now he's had a monitor in here since I think earlier this year. The monitor found, listen to this, $48 million of cash that came into his business from nobody know. The monitor said we don't know where the 48 million came from. Now let's just look at Fannie Willis in Fulton County, Georgia, that they're really grilling her over a total of $10,000. But little cash payments of $1,500, $1,000. So they're grilling her over that. But he's got 48 million that came from God knows where, the Saudis. He said that they gave it to each other. That's what he said. That it was their money they gave it to each other. And so I would say to you that there is this clear double standard in the country that we want to, and we're going to pivot to Fannie Willis, that we want her to be completely 100% above, the law. When we first heard that she was with the prosecutor, we had some concerns about that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. So what I hear you say, and what I'm connecting it to, is that we're talking about the former president of the United States of America, a business mogul who in New York State, New York City, where he comes from by way of his family, et cetera, that over the last 50 or so years, that it's basically been kind of a roughshod,
right?
Where he's just bullied his way through
the
whole way through lies,
right,
and deceit,
not paying suppliers.
And he was known for not paying,
right,
and folks just get angry again, take him to court,
right,
and then
they run out of money.
They run out of money, and then they actually lose money,
right,
trying to recoup the money that's already owed to him,
right.
So I'm listening to what you're saying, and we're talking about New York before we go to Georgia, and I think, wait a minute, this is a lot of political talk, whatever,
right.
However, this is a person that may very well become the next president of the United States of America. This is the gold standard of character, of integrity,
right,
of ethics.
The presidency,
the gold standard,
right.
And is it the office, or do we actually hold the person accountable to the office? And then if we, have, difference, well, the office itself, the position should be this held high, but people are people and they can come in kind of under. How does it speak to the people who want him or want that unethical person
lying
to lead them?
Right.
Literally, again, Trump is not our parents. So I say that because some people say, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. For us, the American people, he's not the tree for us.
Right.
So we have literally, those who follow, those who support, Eric, have literally bit off some apple, tasted the flavor. It's rotten to the core,
Right.
right? But let me try another bite, because that side of the apple was rotten.
Right.
So I'm going to turn the apple around, still the same apple.
Right.
Bite it again, and over time, I'm going to eat the entire rotten apple and not know that rottenness gets into
And
me.
affects you.
Right. Now, before we get to Georgia,
Right. That's a good question.
Eric, at one time, we had another president of the United States. He goes by the name of Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
The American people
approach.
badmouth him because he had a tan suit on.
Right.
They badmouth him because he showed up at a press conference and didn't have his American flag lapel pin.
Right. It's changing curtains in the White House.
Changing curtains. Where are we?
Right. So this is a good question. I would say to you that I'm mainly sad for the people who are major Donald Trump supporters, but I will tell you that they're not just white people. They are also Hispanic males. Yeah. What we find is that identity politics, sort of social identity, ties people together in crazy, unholy ways. And so, and so we have multiple identities. So there are Black men, there are Latin men that support Trump because they like his bluster. Yeah. I'll tell you that our politics is so broken, and the people in it are they look like such liars to us, that we have very little respect for the average one. So if anybody shows up with some talk game and some ability to take charge of this, who will just go rogue and do their own thing and say that they're fighting for us, make America great again, then we go for that. Yeah. A lot of people just go for that because we're tired of the double talk. We're tired of the squares that are just bickering with each other, that have no swag in them at all. He's done a lot of things on TV. We've liked his shows and all like that. So he's a popular guy. It's a popularity contest. And so in many ways, people are willing to believe at the end of the day whatever he says, because now they've joined his team. But he's being shown now for completely who he is. And let's pivot to Fani Willis in Fulton County, Georgia. Yeah. The Fulton County, Georgia is bringing charges against Trump because we heard him trying to get them to overturn the voters, the will of the voters in this country. He got to get that overturned in Georgia. He used everything he had. And I've never seen a guy that lost so many trials. Mm-hmm. Every case that he brought to a judge in any court of any party, he lost. I think he won one case out of over 100 some cases. So he was trying to steal the whole way, and never did want to turn over the reins of power, never conceded it, never respected that Joe Biden won the election in a fair. I mean, how can you even run again if you refuse to accept that you lost? That's the pathological part. So now they discovered through all the little search, because as soon as you come after him, then they're going to start doing sort of negative searches on you to find out what they can find out. So they found out that she and a prosecutor had been friendly with one another and concocted a whole story about how they're stealing. She got this guy so that she could rake money out of this whole process. And so now they have the DA in Fulton County who's running this court, who has decided to charge this case against Trump as a conspiracy, sort of a RICO charge. And she's now found, she's had 4 people already plead guilty. She's got people that are turning on him. And so they sought to bring her down. But what they had to do is they had to prove in this trial that she was doing acts that were so egregious that they were interfering with the defendant's ability to get a fair and reasonable ruling in that court system. That standard is high. Yeah. I don't think they met it at all. What they did was they sullied her up. Take it from there, Tommy, and then we'll come back and talk.
No, this is good, Eric, because I'm learning. So I listened and watched the trial the last 2 days, and so help me understand again, because I did hear a point where one of the, I guess, defense attorneys white woman. She was not necessarily representing Donald Trump in this case, but she was representing another of the convicted or tried and convicted individuals, and wanted to have that case, that conviction overturned.
Okay.
Right. So I don't understand completely that how many people did Fonnie Willits bring to in the case?
Might have been 19.
19.
Yeah.
19. So these are there 19 different cases?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They're trying some of them concurrent. Some of them asked to go outside of it on their own, and she did hear some of those cases because everybody has the right to a fast and quick trial.
Yeah.
So 4 of them have been gotten out of the way already. But the thing is, what's interesting is that they came after her, and so what they needed to prove was that she was having a personal physical relationship with the prosecutor, the lead prosecutor, before she selected him. Mm-hmm. And so they had to prove that she was having actually sex, I guess is what it devolved to, before 2022 or 2021. Mm-hmm. And so they were asking all kind of dumb questions, right? And then they had to find that she was financially benefiting from the relationship. In other words, she got with him, she gave him the position so that he could bankroll her back. Mm. And basically what they'd gotten, they were in a relationship, they fell in love with each other or whatever. And they had all the dates lined up that from 21 to 22, but it was after the charge had been brought. And so they just weren't able to, at least they weren't able to pierce it, but they were able to sully her up. Now, people that are not wise about what the standard is basically are saying, hey, you're not above reproach. You're not pure enough. You're not innocent enough. Now, I'll say one other thing to you because I think this is so important for us to take a look at. Mm-hmm. Trump has been in many of these trials, and most of them, especially if they were criminal, he never would show up for testimony. He would always tell us, I want to show up. I want to testify, but my lawyers won't let me. That's what he says. Yeah. And her lawyers were also trying not to let her testify. She was prancing around, pacing in her office, couldn't wait to get to the stand. Mm. And I'm going to say to you all that when she got to the stand, Tommy and I just watched this. At first, I was so shocked because what she brought, first of all, she went, met with a pastor and prayed. Mm-hmm. That was going to be a problem for Trump right there. Yep. She went and got some prayer. And then she had her father as one of the witnesses. Mm-hmm. And so she said, tomorrow you're going to meet my daddy. Mm-hmm. Now, if you think about how Black women have been looked at, how they've been stereotyped, how they've been dealt with, and honestly, Trump's greatest nightmare and the thing that angers him the most is the notion that a person of color, a woman of color, I can stop at a woman, but a woman of color would have any control over anything that would have influence on his life. Now, I would tell those of you that are against DEI and believe that it stifles meritocracy, then the thing that you would hope for is to have an unqualified Black affirmative action woman leading the trial. That seems like that should be easy to dispatch. Somebody that's unqualified for the position, but I guess maybe not.
Maybe not.
And she came in there shaking her head and going in on people. I'll say one last thing, and I'm gonna turn it back to Tommy. One of the things that the defense in this case was saying to her, she was saying that I had a lot of cash money. That me and Wade, we went on trips. Yes, we went on 4 trips, at least other trips, but we paid equally. And she says, I don't need a man to do anything for me. The only man that has ever paid 100% of my bill is my daddy, which you'll meet tomorrow. In other words, she's been under so much pressure and so much threat of life that she has to literally snuggle right up under her father and say, you just wait. Tomorrow you will hear from my daddy. But what she was doing, she said that I have lots of cash in my house because my father said, he was a former person in the Black Panthers, started up the LA chapter of the Black Panthers. And he said he went to a lot as a young man. He said people wouldn't give me an American Express. They wouldn't give me a MasterCard. So the only way I could do anything, go anywhere, stay anywhere, was I had to have cash. So I raised my daughter that you should always have 6 months of cash in your house or wherever you lay. Now think about it. They're in Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, you get stopped in Georgia, you know, you got to have money. And so that's what she was saying. That was unthinkable by so many in the dominant culture. Like, that doesn't make sense. Why would a person have cash?
And then, you know, she reinforced that with, I think, exceptional intelligence.
Woo.
So see, the intelligence is, I'm going to share with you a piece of information, and that information is that we as a generation, long-term generation, over multiple generations, understand the bigotry, the bias, the racism that that mandates that we have cash. Right. That is, through each generation, we're taught that, and I'm one of them. My father taught me that. So I'm going to just explain that to you. Okay, you don't understand that. All right. So since you don't understand that, let me share with you a series of stories. Right. So you're asking one poignant question, but I have to give you the context. Right. The context. Woo. So when you ask, so you have more than $20,000 in cash in your home, in your house, and she says, well, let me be clear. Over time, I've accumulated 20,000. Sometimes I've had 5,000. Sometimes I had 15,000 or 12,000, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay. Where did that money come from? I like this with intelligence, Eric. From an emotional intelligence perspective, receive that question, just pause. One thing that she did, her father did, even Mr. Wade did, is that when they heard idiocy, when they heard ignorance, when they heard in questioning buffoonery, their pause was often followed with a chuckle or a laugh. Are you serious? That dumb question? That one, you're gonna ask that? Oh, okay. Let me make it clear. Don't stop me now. Yep. Don't stop me now. No judge. Nope. You don't do it. You ask what? Don't do it. Don't try to jump in, right? Because I do what you do, and I do it better. And your prep is terrible. Your case is terrible. In fact, it's a lie. So let me slow this down, as Eric says in our show. Let us slow it down, and say, I went to Howard University. My father was telling me before I went to Howard to have 6 months of cash. I had 0 months of cash because I was living with my parents, my mother, my father. And so when I started to make some money, it wasn't any money. And my father would be ashamed of me when he thought I was making money. And I may have been making money. I had $500, $1,000, sometimes $5,000. Literally 1 month of rent or mortgage. Not 6 months. And so Eric, she continues to walk that down. I think they get frustrated with the stories.
Oh, absolutely, man. Oh, yeah. She was rambling too. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm telling the whole thing.
But I'm going to tell the whole thing. If you want to know, and Eric, that's a great point. I'm going to tell the whole thing, and I'm going to call out what you are insinuating. Yeah, so if you talk about romantic relationship, you're talking about sex. Call it out.
You try to say I have sex the first time I met him? That's a lie. You don't know nothing about me. In other words, if we're playing this dirty game, there are no rules. The gloves are off. And I'm going to show you that the gloves are off. And I'll tell you, man, when we finally saw her light up, after a while, when I thought, my daughter said, that reminds me of myself. How I have to fight against injustice. So let's slow this down. How are you going to ask me to be polite when I'm asking somebody to get their knee or their foot off my neck? How are you going to ask me to be polite and courteous when somebody has railroaded me in here to talk about sex That's basically all you got. The judge had to a couple times say, well, what's that got to do with finances? Well, we're just trying to put in the context around that.
Yep.
No, we know what this is because we know what you got your playbook from.
Mm-hmm.
Trump said, go make her look dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's what we're doing, then let's get on down to it.
Here's what I recommend, Eric, and I appreciate this conversation. I don't know if anybody else does, but I do. Here's what I've learned about my life and other people as well, that when I'm doing training, when I'm talking with folks, you and or the world, there are certain things that I share about myself. Because one, I'm not embarrassed by it. Two, I'm not ashamed by it. Three, I actually think that other people in this world have experienced what I've experienced, if not worse.
Mm-hmm.
So if I talk about, I used to date a girl in high school and we broke up because I was doing her wrong, if that's the story I'm telling, I could say that, right? Don't have to name names or situations, but I know in my heart of hearts, one person in this world has experienced it.
Right.
In reality, it's millions of people.
That's right.
Right. So when you stand on the truth,
right,
everybody can relate to it. And it's easier to remember.
That's right. That's right.
It's easier to remember. So if I'm on the witness stand and I'm being questioned about 4 trips, right? And I've been on many trips. And there's money involved.
You're coming up with it right off the cut.
Right off the rip. There's hotels, there's travel,
right,
etc. I'm telling you the truth about me.
Right.
You can, with my wife, you can ask me, Eric, hey, Tommy, did you go on vacation last year? Sure did.
Right.
Sure did.
You couldn't remember how much.
How long have you been there? Were you there? I was there for 5 days or so. Did you have lunch on one of those days? I'm certain we did.
Right.
I'm certain we did. Did you have any snacks? You know me. I'm gonna have a snack.
Right.
I'm gonna have some M&Ms or whatever.
Right.
Where'd you get that from? Oh,
hotel.
Hold on. Where'd I get that from?
Right.
I gotta pause here.
Right.
Because I want to answer your question.
Right.
I do. I want to answer
that several times.
I want to answer it, but I give me a moment, because you're asking me, where did I buy the M&Ms? To be honest, Eric, I probably buy about 10 M&Ms a week. And times 4 is 40. Times 12 is, so you're trying to get me to narrow down to one specific date location over a year ago. Do you see how idiotic this is?
Right.
Because hear me now, if the tables were to turn, which they will, I'm going to stand on truth. I'm going to call out a lie. Right. And the world will see, as God is my witness, as my Father as my strength, right? That when I'm talking about me and my relationship with Mr. Wade, hear me now, and say, when did it end? I'm going to explain to you the difference between men,
that was deep,
right?
That's deep, man.
Men, and how men say, hey, I'm done. We're done. Men cut it.
Right.
Women, they will just cut the umbilical cord. They will just cut the emotion. So it's, this ain't working. So 6, 7, 8 months later, I have the conversation around.
The hard conversation.
She
said that he thought it was over when the sex got done.
Yeah.
But I was still, women are different.
So the details, I went from the detail of, making a purchase on vacation to the real detail of emotionally, psychologically ending a relationship. Right? He says it was over when sex was done. I say sex was not the driver of the romance.
Right.
And if you know women, if you know Black people, then our passion is not only in the physical.
Right.
In fact, that's what other people say, that we're just physical beings. In reality, we are spiritual and emotional beings. So I'm emotionally tied to this man, right, as a close friend, just like I'm tied to this woman here, to this man here, all these other folks. So when you're talking about cultural difference, Eric, you're looking at a powerful, educated, wise, and blessed Black woman dealing with people who are privileged with the system that was created for them.
Right.
And she is playing and winning at the game.
Right.
Come in, sit down, start throwing punches. Right. Getting little slaps. Right. Is that all you got? Look,
Right.
You're slapping, you're poking folks in the eye. I'm punching, and I am gonna set you down.
Right. Now I'm gonna demonstrate that before she got in the seat. And then Tommy, I want you to demonstrate what she did when she first got in the seat. So they were not sure that she was going to even take the stand.
Yep.
It is not recommended by most lawyers that you take the stand in your own trial, because there's only a high potential of losses and opening yourself up to all kinds of questioning and potential perjury. Now, I want you to keep in mind, she took the stand. Let's see if Trump will take the stand and if he comes into the same court, and I promise you he will not. Here's how she was. She was over in her office. She was waiting, and her staff told her, waiting's done. She literally came to the court, and she just walked to the front, and she was leaning in like this, Tommy.
Yeah.
Like just leaning in, like, I'm about to go in right now. I'm putting myself on the stand. And the judge was like, hold on, are you taking the stand? And then the defense was like, oh, let's go get her. And so that was crazy. Finish your points. I'm going to be right back.
Yep. So sit down, take the stand. First thing that happens, let me see these 3 documents. These are the filings that resulted in her being there. So she turns to the judge, asks the judge, do you have those documents, printed out documents? Judge says that he does have them, but he has some written notes on them, so they're not clean. And he asks both parties, does anyone have any clean copies of the documents? And then immediately, everyone's scrambling. Again, the 3 filings that resulted in her being there and the trial. So that's incredibly unusual that the supporting documents, the case itself, and those documents are not readily available. So they scramble, they take a pause, let's take a recess, and they go off for about 12 to 15 minutes. They go off and they come back. And during that 12 to 15 minutes, there's a moment early on that she's waiting. She's taking off her glasses, and she's waiting, right? Go ahead and find them. And she decides, because people are scrambling, people are leaving that are there, just attending. She goes to use the restroom and she comes back, right? So she has the documents in front of her. She's familiar because she's already read them, obviously. She's had other people read them. And now the basis of the trial is in those 3 documents, right? And so the defense, they started, the arguments start to character assassination.
Right. That's what we're here for.
And we can spur into any area of human life.
Right.
So we're
going to sully her up. Ask dumb questions and say you got to tie to it.
We're going to go financial. We're going to go romantic, right? We're going to go, okay, I'm sorry. You said that you don't take any money from men that you pay back. So we're going to overtalk that, because that's going to hurt our argument.
Right.
Our argument is that you hired him,
right,
and funneled money.
Right. That's our argument.
Right.
These little amounts of money.
And I don't know if you heard Mr. Wade's, I got to ask you, did you hear Mr. Wade's testimony? I did not. Because Mr. Wade said this woman would not take money.
Right.
It was actually a point of contention,
right,
in our relationship.
My own woman.
I'm a man,
right,
and I need to take care of you.
Right.
She said no, she will pay me back.
Right.
So get to her, and she's saying the same thing right there.
Right.
Right. And she's talking to a white female attorney, that the line of questioning was as if the white attorney, and it may not be because she's white, it may not because be because of anything else, maybe because she's a woman, but she was asking questions as if I have no idea of what you're talking about with regards to a female taking care of everything,
Right.
being completely independent. And so I'll close my comments there where what I saw, Eric, I saw in District Attorney Willis, I saw a woman in her early 50s,
That's right.
52, 53, who was educated at a historically black college and university, and then at a predominantly white institution. She has been involved in her career, so much so that she has filed RICO cases, not only in this case, but also with
Black rappers. I mean,
black,
he's coming
yep,
after a lot of
indeed.
people.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So there's and I don't want this to be missed at all, Eric. The real and present threat of injury or death
It's real.
is real.
She had to move locations.
I don't want that to be missed.
No,
You know, because sometimes we could just say,
Right.
"What you?"
And Trump
because you showed up."
intends that. Let's not act like
Yep.
this is not a part of the plan.
Yep.
He puts your name out there. They publish your address because the intention is to intimidate. We can no longer not say the things that are true about this no character former president. At some point, people have to stand up. Tommy Moore, just a little bit. I'm going to be funny for just a second.
Yeah.
When Fonnie got in the seat, she looked at him like, I'm here. Let's do this.
Yep.
And just like I tell people that Obama was easier to talk about than he was to talk to, she said, I don't need no notes. I don't need no preparation or nothing. Go.
Go.
And then bam, she started coming at him. And I'm going to tell you that an assimilation to a standard that is not really held for others